Today, we're talking about Queen of the Internet Pokimane's new cookie line coming under fire as a scam and stolen product. One of America's dad's accusers is reopening a case against him. A 17-year-old tried getting her 33-year-old boyfriend to off his mother, and more, all in today's episode of The Insight Hour. What's going on, webheads? It's Tragically Monday, which would normally suck, but I get to see you beautiful motherfuckers today, so it's all good, baby. Now, spoiler warning, we're talking about some heavy shit today, and yeah, I'm just putting that out there. So let's not waste any time. Alice, pull up the first file we're looking at.
Twitch star Pokimane's new venture, Minus Snacks, is stirring up controversy. Allegations have surfaced about the Midnight Mini Cookies being a rebranded product, similar to one previously sold at Costco. Minus Snacks insists their formulation is unique, developed over 2 years.
Well, it appears we have something of a cookie conundrum on our hands. The case? Pokimane's Minus Snacks versus Totesi's Midnight Cookies over at Costco. And, well, the evidence is stacking up that these Midnight Munchies may be nothing more than cookie-cutter copies of each other. I mean, we're talking scary close doppelgangers, same shape, size, even the same chunky chocolate chips. Of course, our defendant Pokimane pleads innocent, insisting these cookies are in fact unique, being loaded with extra vitamin D. But so far, the internet jury doesn't seem swayed. And then there's something about the price. The Minus Snacks will set you back $28 for 4 bags, so roughly $7 per bag, as to where the competitor was giving roughly double the amount for almost the same cost. And the general consensus online seems to be that Poki's cost is too damn high. Now, Pokimane has responded to the complaints in fashion. She's called out all the, quote, broke boys who can't afford upscale treats. Yeah, maybe not her most graceful moment or choice of words, but you don't get to be the queen of Twitch without stirring up the beehive a little bit. My whole take on the situation? Well, rebranding is ubiquitous. Companies remix existing products all the time. Add a new name, shiny new packaging, maybe a hefty price increase, and voila, same snack, new hype. If you guys remember a little while back, Payless did this with the I can't remember what it was, but basically they rebranded their own shoes, marketed them as some high-end things, and then sold them for just crap loads of money, and people ate it up. They waited in line to buy these things, so yeah, it's a common practice. I mean, hell, Totesi's Midnight Cookies are probably a redo of another bakery's creation. Don't quote me on that, I'm just saying, it's an example. So in some ways, Pokimane is just kind of playing the game. Honestly, what should be a little controversial and under the microscope is the alleged vitamin D content. Minus Snacks are being sold hard on having this added vital nutrient, but we're talking micrograms, like a sprinkle, a dusting, a fucking eyelash's worth, if you will. Promising health benefits from what amounts to be crumbs seems to be, well, kind of crummy. So the prosecution proposes this. The issue shouldn't be about cookie cloning, but about the misleading marketing of supposed benefits. Selling a dash of vitamin D as a nutritional goldmine feels, well, a bit like false advertising. And as for the other stuff, I mean, think of it like this. There is an over-the-counter version of tons of drugs you would get from a doctor, right? Same ingredients, different package, different price. You get it. In summary, I urge the jury to think critically. Look past the chocolate chunks to the tiny nutrients, and be wary of treats that claim to be healthy when only a speck of evidence exists. Case closed. For now. We'll just have to wait and see how many more cookie jars Pokimane tries to dip her hands into.
In our next story, we turn to Portugal's remarkable achievement in renewable energy. Recently, Portugal ran entirely on renewable energy for 6 consecutive days, from October 31st to November 6th. This feat was made possible by a combination of wind, hydro, and solar power, generating 1,102 gigawatts per hour of energy, surpassing the national consumption during this period.
Gather round, folks, for the triumphant tale of Portugal's renewable energy victory. This little engine that could have a country and its 10 million souls accomplished a feat most thought were improbable, powering itself for 6 straight days using nothing but renewables. While many countries merely pay lip service to carbon neutrality, Portugal's out here actually doing something about it, building wind farms, harvesting rivers, and plastering solar panels literally anywhere they can stick them. It's like Portugal looked at the climate crisis and said, "Challenge accepted." Now, petrolheads, don't freak out just yet. Fossil fuels still have a comfy spot at the table. Old habits die hard, even if you have a bevy of renewables at your disposal. It's just Portugal's relationship status with natural gas and oil is, complicated. This really all began back when Portugal took an economic punch from the vid. Because of that, they decided to invest heavily into renewables and came out swinging with solar projects and efficiency measures. In other words, they're not just rebuilding, they're reimagining their entire energy infrastructure. By 2050, Portugal wants to go full carbon neutral. I'm sure there'll be plenty of slips along the way, but they're waving the green flag and pushing pedal to the metal. For other countries struggling to kick their fossil fuel addiction, Portugal offers hope. Or shame. I'm gonna say shame. They're way smaller than the other countries. My country. I'm talking about my country. So to all the critics out there saying this was only a 6-day project, the key is patience. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither will the renewable energy future. It also requires balance. We can't just axe fossil fuels overnight. And anyone saying that we can do it is either being unrealistic or a little disingenuous. Portugal's success shows a sustainable path is possible, but only if we commit heart, mind, and, well, the necessary resources. That's a big one right there, that last part. Yeah, I don't know if we have the balls to do that, but, here's the open.
We now turn to a deeply troubling story from Ohio. Reverend Michael Zacharias, a Roman Catholic priest, has been sentenced to life imprisonment for sex trafficking.
Alrighty, so the case of Reverend Michael Zacharias forces us to confront the darkest consequences when moral authority is weaponized into abuse. As a priest, Michael is entrusted with providing spiritual guidance, support, and comfort, values one would expect from a clergyman. But for over 15 years, he violated his community's trust and moral obligations in an absolutely disgusting manner by preying on vulnerable boys struggling with opioid addiction. He would leverage their battle with addiction, twisting the very notion of faith-based guidance into a tool for his own monstrous ends. A person these boys believed could be a refuge during their time of crisis instead became the architect of their trauma. I'm sort of curious about how this conduct evaded detection for so long. I mean, where were the safeguards and oversight to identify and halt this sort of behavior? His case should prompt an examination into what allowed these abuses of power to occur unchecked. I mean, there should already be some sort of system in place within these religious institutions to prevent these types of abuses. So like what, were there no effective mechanisms for reporting and investigating? Or was there a culture of silence and denial that allowed him to continue this predatory behavior? Honestly, it sounds more like a systematic issue. You know, when the reputation of the church is prioritized over the welfare of its members. Moreover, the case highlights the need for a more comprehensive background check, maybe regular psychological evaluations and ongoing training for those in positions of authority. And lastly, there should be a clear, accessible channel for the victims to report abuse. This includes not only internal mechanisms within the church, but external ones, some kind of independent body that can intervene. What are your thoughts or experiences with the church? Anyone have any stories they'd like to share and discuss? Let me know in the comments. Only if you're willing to, of course.
Our next story involves a new development in the long-standing allegations against Bill Cosby. Joan Tarshish, who accused Cosby of sexual assault decades ago, has filed a new lawsuit under New York's Adult Survivors Act. This law, which is about to expire, allows victims of sexual abuse to file claims that would otherwise be barred by time limits.
Alrighty, we're talking about a story that's been in the mix for years. America's once favorite dad, Bill Cosby. Joan, one of the women who's been vocal about Cosby's misconduct, is stepping back into the legal ring. She claims Cosby drugged and assaulted her when she was starting in her comedy writing career. So we're talking about allegations that go back to the late 60s and early 70s. You know, a time when Cosby was riding high on the fame wave. Little refresher for you. Cosby, now 86, has been accused by over 60 women, but he's consistently denied these claims. Remember, he was the first big name to fall to the Me Too era, but his conviction was ultimately overturned. So what does this new lawsuit mean? Well, on its face, it's more than just a legal battle. It's a symbol of a fight that's been raging on for years. It's about accountability, about facing the music, no matter how long the song's been playing for. And it really isn't just all about Cosby, it's about a cultural shift. It's a real, the powerful need to stop getting let off with a slap on the hands type of moment. So it seems like America's dad is most likely going to be getting another visit from the justice system soon.
We now turn to a disturbing case from Toledo, Ohio. A 17-year-old girl, Caitlin Coons, has been charged with the murder of Nicole Jones and will be tried as an adult. The case involves allegations of aggravated murder, tampering with evidence, and abuse of a corpse, with chilling details emerging in court.
Okay, so the case of 17-year-old Caitlin Coons forces us into the darkest corners of the human condition. She stands accused of orchestrating the grisly murder of her 33-year-old boyfriend Jonathan Jones's mother, which I've got words for, but they're not coming to mind. Why don't you all go ahead and fill in that blank for me? 33 and 17. Anyways, allegedly, Caitlin had told Jonathan that he had to get rid of his mother because she was interfering with their relationship, and when he was unable to do it, she took it upon herself to strangle his mother, unalive her with a rock, and then made Jonathan help her dispose of the body. The two suspects fled to Mexico, where they were eventually arrested. Now, Caitlin's defense has introduced uncertainty by alleging she was manipulated and coerced by Jones into committing these brutal acts. Her attorney has questioned the true origins of the incriminating evidence, casting Caitlin potentially as an instrument in Jonathan's own monstrous will, really trying to blur the lines between victim, collaborator, and perpetrator here. When criminality intersects with alleged psychological domination, the path forward becomes, well, precarious. But to simply accept the easy narrative would be a disservice. Scrutiny is key here. I'll simply pass the question off to you. Should Caitlyn be tried as an adult despite the fact she's 17? Can we call her a victim of psychological control if she really was the one who both suggested and committed the murder? And shouldn't Jonathan be in trouble for traveling across the borders with a minor with intent to do something? Mind you, I'm only assuming there was intent, but considering they were admitted dating, you know. And on that disturbingly disastrous note, we're gonna call it for the day. Don't forget to let me know your thoughts on anything we discussed today. And until I see you next, stay weird, stay safe, and I'll see you on Wednesday, maybe. I am moving this week, so I'll try for Wednesday. Bye.